So I think from a standpoint of technologically, this might be one of the more complicated exercises, but just from a idea standpoint, it's not that complicated. What you'll see when you open this file is a bunch of folders, and in each folder is an image and two sort of croppings, two sort of formatted panels that are, one is wide and one is tall. If I click those off, you'll see the broader image here. It's there, and if you turn that on, you can see the sort of tall cropping, and if you turn that off and the other one on, you see the wide cropping. So the idea here is to take each one of these images, maybe just one, maybe several, and crop it in a way that says something specific to how you think that image can be perceived. Let's zoom in a hair. There we go. For instance, and let's look at some of the images ahead of time. So we've got that one of Odysseus coming into the underworld with all the shades sort of surrounding him and coming to him. It's a pretty powerful image. Likewise, we have a couple more from the underworld, these three shades, him sitting by the ditch, some sailors in the background. If you've looked at our exercise, there's a couple versions of this panel in that. Another one, which you can see, is a close-up of one of the sailors and Odysseus, again in the underworld. And then a close-up of Odysseus remembering what Circe has told him before they go into the underworld. And finally, just for a good sort of monster image, we have the two monsters at the end of the book, the whirlpool, the Scylla, and the Charybdis, the sort of tentacled monster that they have to sail in between. And again, two different ways of cropping that. Now we can start there to show you how this might work. It seems pretty obvious that if you were to look at this image, this might be a really good way to crop it. You'll lose the parts of the tentacled monster, but this sort of gives you a clearer picture of the whirlpool that they're going to come up against. Now, again, technologically, this is a little different. I think the best way to do this might be to copy using your program this little image here. I'm doing copy merged in Photoshop. There's something similar in Manga Studio and in GIMP. Copy merged is here under the edit menu, so I'm copying that. Then I'm going to paste it, and now I've got a free-floating version of that. So I'm going to turn off that entire folder now. Oops, let's put that outside the folder. Let's put it all the way on the top. Great. And so what I'm going to do is just keep playing around and finding images that I think are powerful and can be cropped well. I want to go back up to that first one, which I thought was so powerful. And I'm going to go, now I can go wide on this one and get just sort of Odysseus and a bunch of sort of claustrophobic. Notice we talked about framing earlier. He's really well framed in that cropping. Or we can go for a tall one, and I'm going to bring those croppings in pretty soon, which is a little more, I think it's more, what do I want to say? It actually looks a little more frightening in a way. I think it looks a little more high pressure. Right? All these things are coming down upon Odysseus, rather in this wide version, which is still powerful, but it feels like it's kind of even a little bit languid, like there's time to run away. Whereas this one is really kind of spooky. These things are all tumbling down upon him. So I'm going to do that same thing that I did before. I'm going to drag a selection around it and do copy merged. And then paste. And again, I have to zoom that up here. I'm going to move that over there. I'm going to turn this layer off. And I'm just making, with no particular juxtaposition in mind and no particular story in mind, I'm just taking some images and recropping them. We did that one. I think in my particular example, we have two versions of that one. Now this is an interesting one, and I'm not sure the best way to do it, but one possibility is to crop it wide But here's something, if we want to sort of break the rules a little bit, maybe we need to select that image and tilt it a little bit. Now let's look as it goes, and let's move it into our cropping position here. Now to me that's looking pretty striking. Odysseus is coming off balance a little bit. You can see him sort of leaning backwards against the panel. I think I want to shrink this panel even a little bit more to fit inside that cropping a little better. We're close to what's called a Dutch angle here, which is a tilted angle, where in movie terminology the camera is not on perpendicular to the ground. I like this cropping. I'm going to do the same thing we've been doing, which is drag a little selection over it, go to my edit, copy merged, and go up to the top and paste it in. There it is. Oops. I'm going to turn that one on. I'm going to move that over. I think I've got room for one more wide one. I'm not sure exactly what one it should be. Why don't we bring Circe into the mix? Let's turn off these three just for now, and let's look at our Circe panel. I said I got room for one more wide one, so let's try and find it. And again, that's pretty good. That's got a strong vertical here on the left. If I bring it over there, it's just those two characters. I could also do what we just did with the previous one, which is select the image underneath, rotate it a little. What are we getting? Let's see what we get. There we go. So it's actually sort of perfectly perpendicular, going against some of the dramatic rules we said about angles in a previous exercise. In fact, maybe we don't want to do that. Maybe it was better in its previous angle. It does give us, there's some stability there, as if it's not frightening and not scary. Whereas if we go back to our previous angle, it's got a little bit of menace as she's coming towards him, downward, using both gravity and magic. Let's use that cropping. Drag a marquee tool, copy merged. We'll turn off that layer. We'll turn on our 3 layers. And from there, we can start to add balloons. I think I will let you users do that. We've got captions, we've got word balloons, etc. I think one thing, however, I want to do before all of that is I want to make this whirlpool the last thing you see. These things are sort of close-up confrontations, and this whirlpool sort of is the last thing that you might see. And again, at this point, I don't know what these word balloons might say, but you can manipulate them as you see fit.